And I'll tell you something, that front seven, that entire 11 football team, the 11 players on that football team for the Bears is the greatest combination of athletes I've ever played against. Conceptually, they were difficult to deal with, but the athletes on that football team, holy mackerel, those, believe me, I paid the price in that football game. Just trying to figure out where they were coming from, who was coming. Eventually, they wound up on top of me, so I knew where they wound up, but I wasn't sure where they were coming from half the time.
Yeah, and that game, you brought it up. That was obviously a rough one for you and your teammates. The final score was 45-10, but you guys actually jumped out to a 10-0 lead in that game, and had success early. And that was kind of the Bears early in the season. They kind of fell behind and they'd scratch and claw to win those first few games. That was really the first game where they really busted out and really started beating teams. They beat Dallas 44-0, Atlanta 36-0. They had some massive wins in that one. So what was it that you guys did early? Like what happened? Was it just the relentless pressure over the course of 4 quarters? How do you guys have success early and then have things fall apart like that?
The reason I'm laughing is because just as the Bears season turned last year on the Hail Mary for them, our game turned with my 1-yard record-setting punt.
I was going to ask you about that.
I figured I'd bring it up before you did. No, we had a 10-0 lead. Kicked the ball away from Willie Gault 3 times. Okay, so now we're going to kick the ball to Willie. We have a lead. Willie takes it back for a touchdown. Next time we get the ball from the 15-yard line, I'm punting. I get my record-setting 1-yard punt.
Because your punter was hurt in that kickoff, the Willie Gault touchdown, correct?
He hurt his leg in the kickoff to Willie. So, I'll tell you the story. So I'm standing on the sidelines and Coach Gibbs is going, we don't have a punter. I said, hey, Coach, I can punt. He says, you can what? I said, I can punt. He says, fine. Next time we punt, you punt. We get the ball. We get the 4th down on the 15-yard line. I'm standing on the goal line, and I've got visions of Danny White because he's quarterback in the Cowboys and he can punt. Ray Guy, my leg 4 miles in the air, my arms spread like a big swan. I mean, I had all these visions, right? I actually have a picture, Bill, of my punt where my knee is bent and the ball is like at 2:00 headed out of bounds. I don't know how somebody captured that photo, but I actually have that one. But that sort of set everything in motion the other way. They went and scored, and from then on, it became an avalanche. Momentum is so key in games. One play turns. Everybody says, oh, one play doesn't make a difference in a game. They've never played in a game then. That one particular moment where one team gets belief and the other one doesn't get doubt, but now there's uncertainty. And all of a sudden, it's like a tidal wave coming at you. You just can't stop it. Everything you do is right. Everything they do is wrong.
Let me ask you one more thing about the Bears and more about football in the 1980s and in that era. And then I want to ask you about Notre Dame before we wrap up. But you watch the highlights of the 85 Bears or even the 86 Giants and these hard-hitting defenses. And these plays are legal. These are not, unnecessary roughness. These are not penalties in 1985. But I feel like if they did the exact same tackle in 2025, players would be arrested. Yep. They've made a lot of changes for safety and, the game, trying to make the game safer. I'm not complaining. These are the right moves to make. But just for the younger fans who didn't see football 40 years ago, what was the difference like in terms of playing how it is today versus the kind of violence that there was 40 years ago?
See, I would suggest to all young fans out there of football, go back and look at that era in the 80s and take a look at the way guys were hit. Look at the way guys hit other people. You're right. The penalties that exist today didn't exist then. Roughing the quarterback. One of my big complaints is when a quarterback gets pushed to the ground. That is not roughing. That's something they need to seriously take a look at because you're gifting 15 yards to an offense where it really isn't necessary. You're asking guys in a split second to turn their mind off and stop. I think there are things in the game right now, and I'm all for safety as well, but there are things in the game right now that just don't make sense. And, we're sort of in a common sense way in society today a little bit more. I think we ought to carry it over to football. But I would recommend young people to watch a game and see how many plays, how many hits that were delivered on both sides of the ball that would be considered penalties today. It was a different game. And I tell young guys even this today, don't count on the officials to protect you, especially young, like with Caleb and with Jaden. two young quarterbacks that run a lot. Don't expect the officials to protect you. When you head towards don't slow down when you're running towards the sidelines. You run through that white strip that's over there. You don't sort of slow down a little bit at the sidelines, because it takes one hit to take you out. For them, it's a 15-yard penalty. For you, it could be career ending. So this is where you really need to be smart at this day and age. Even though they want to protect you, don't count on them protecting you.